All right, everybody. Welcome back to a non-video session of our Awaken Men podcast here. And though you can't see us, you can see our pictures right there in the banner. Like there's Daniel and then there's Mario. That's me. And Daniel's on the other line here.
Yeah. I wanted to save you from seeing my face for 1 week.
We're all beautiful here. We're all beautiful here. Just
Yes.
technology sometimes limits us where we can use our full-blown technology, or sometimes it's just the voice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, after our real deep conversation we had about death last time, it's like I think we ought to cheer the people up and let's talk about some play, because I know that that's a lot of what your program works with, some of the things that you do, and
Yeah.
I believe that humor and play is the way that we move through this. At least that's how I'm handling a lot of this stuff. And what do you have to say about that, Daniel?
A lot. I mean, yeah, when you take it all less, it doesn't mean life isn't serious at times, but when you take it less seriously, like there's more space almost within your life. And I feel like when we get caught in these rigid ways of being, and this is how I gotta be, and I gotta be perfect all the time, like that's not how consciousness works. Like there's no reason for what's happening. I mean, we create it, so it's just like all a play of basically life is like a card game. You get a card dealt to you and then you got to deal with it, but it's if you have fun with it, it's just so much better.
I totally agree. That because when we take life too seriously, the only way I can explain it, life gets heavy, and it's exhausting. I mean, the word exhausting even has that connotation, doesn't it? When you said, "Oh, it's exhausting," I mean, I feel the whole weight, like a whole concrete block, is on my shoulders now when I say that word.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting ready for a trip, so I mean, in a couple weeks I won't be here, but um, yeah, it's hard, when you're getting ready for a trip and putting everything together, not to be too serious. But it weighs you down, and I can feel it. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go play for 2 hours or go do this, and I feel way better just from going to do that. Like, and it's allowing the space to play. People don't give themselves the space to do it.
Yeah,
Including myself at times.
yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing. We talk about it for whatever reason. We somehow have to ask ourselves permission to go play. I don't
Right.
understand that. It's like, wait a minute, who's telling you not to play? And it's us.
Yeah. Yeah, like I learned this from actually coyotes, like seeing them in the wild. They follow me. It's really bizarre. But they play to hunt their food. So if you watch a coyote hunt, it's like jumping up and down. It's like bizarre to watch. And I was like, huh. So they can survive off play. Like they're like the teacher of that. And I think people think they're not going to survive if they just play, so they don't want to go that route, right? I got to take care of the bills and blah blah blah. So if I play, it'll all fall apart, which is actually the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, you hear it all the time. It's like, oh, I'm an adult now. I can't be doing that playful stuff. It's like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be much happier to be around.
I know. It's like that's one of the big things. I had a friend of mine from Kansas City that I was talking to, because I used to be that real serious guy, oh man, we're not going to play. And it took him like 2 or 3 hours on the phone with me to show me how ridiculous some of these things I was griping about were. Because when you really look at it, I mean, some of the stuff that we complain about, it's actually pretty funny. It's like we complain about it. Oh man, I'm gonna be running late. It's like, well, yeah, if you're running late, then you can't really control that. I mean, unless you're gonna get in an accident or something.
Right.
I mean, so we worry about things that are out of our control, Like, oh, okay, well, now this computer's not working. Oh man, it's like, well, you couldn't do anything about it. Things just break. So why throw that extra layer of frustration and just going with the flow and go? It's like, okay, well, this is broken. Obviously, it's a sign for me to do something else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, finding that flow. I mean, it's almost like people go to their jobs, and I see this all the time, and I've done it before too, and they want to complain about it when it's really not that bad. And one, complaining about it never gets you out of it. So
No.
that never works. Like, even if you're in a relationship, people complain about it too. And I'm like, well, that's not going to help you out of it. Like, either you got to leave or you got to make the best of it. One of the two. And I feel like children are the best teachers of that, because they'll be in a waiting room in a hospital having more fun than most adults do. Like, when they're on their leisure time, they're running around, enjoying themselves, maybe reading a book that they really like. Like, they find a way to always have fun and enjoy the moment. They create their play. They don't wait for life to create it for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the conditioning. To me, humor, along with play, comes humor, and with humor, one of the things that people, at least with me, I've noticed this sometimes when it's a very serious situation, and I start finding the humor in it, I start laughing, and some people told me, uh, "Well, what are you laughing? This is serious stuff." And I laughed at that. I go, well, yeah, it is serious, but why are we gonna like put so much weight into it? I even I didn't get this. That this actually happened to me. I was at a restaurant with my friend there, and she has a very loud laugh. And we were just, and when she has that energetic laugh, I start laughing too. And we were laughing in the restaurant. Our people next to us actually tapped me on the shoulder because I was the one right next to him, and they go, "Can you guys please keep it down?" And this was like at happy hour we were having margaritas and everything. It's like,
Right.
okay, people, what's going on here?
Right. Yeah, it's bizarre. It
I,
almost makes them uncomfortable.
yeah, and I don't understand what is it so serious that we can't laugh at things. I mean, life overall is a very humorous thing. I mean, the things that we do, the things, I mean, the stuff that we acquire, I mean, the need to acquire stuff. I think all of that's kind of funny because in the end of it, when you really think about it, we're not going to take it anywhere else. I mean, when we die, uh, where does that stuff go? It goes to somebody else to store or to do that. It's like it's not like we're going to take all the money over there.
Right. Yeah, it's also ridiculous. I was listening, it reminds me, because it was like an epiphany or something through a Bowling for Soup song, which is like a ska punk song. And what they said was everyone's still in high school. They're still trying to get the car and the nice clothes and everything to impress the women or impress on someone else to be popular. Like, and their joke is no one ever got out of high school, even as adults. It never ends. And the
No.
song's kind of like making fun of it, but it's like really true. Like, people are still chasing the big house and everything, so they're popular, right? Like, look at
Yeah.
me. And it's just so funny. And it's like literally where adults are still acting like they're in school as adults.
Yeah, except we got to be adulting. We can't be laughing or playing. But in high school, you could. Why? Oh, because we're a teenager. We can
Right.
play. It's not the serious stuff. And
Yeah.
then and this is what I like to say. It's like it's not the serious stuff, but yet we call it. Those educational years are very important to us. So, so it's
Yeah.
like, come on. It's like, so what is it really? It's like, is it serious or it's not serious? Because to me, education could be considered serious because it is what gives you whatever, or well, at least they say it is what gives you the best job and everything. Now, I'm not going to go into all that right now, but I have my own little triggered emotions about that too.
Yeah. I mean, school is just ridiculous in general. I mean, at its core, like you use like 2% of what you learned, like in your life.
Yeah.
Like, but we teach it like it's a required skill. Like, and people aren't seeing the like dark humor in it. Like, I'm gonna go learn. I remember in high school, they're like, you need to learn calculus. I'm like, why? I want to be a therapist. Like, I don't need to learn that now. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, so I can like show the people that I know calculus, even though I don't need it. Like, that doesn't even make sense. That'd be like Michael Jordan going like, I really need to go read this calculus book so I can play basketball. Like, why? Let's like pick what you're good at and run with it. Like, it's, you don't have to prove something to someone.
Yeah, you're not going to be calculating a derivative to figure out that this person is struggling with some childhood traumas, right? It's like, oh, bust out the slide rule, the calculator, the computer. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, it's just, most of it's just a waste of time. Like, and the kids know it. Well, they're all sitting there like, why am I learning this? And that question is like a legitimate question, because they're like, I don't need to know this. Like, why would I? And then you forget it by the time you're an adult. You're like, oh, I'm glad I spent all that time studying the thing I didn't need. I mean, if you're going to be an engineer or something, obviously it makes sense. But
yeah, but every field has its criteria, right? Like if you're going to be in architecture, yeah, you could kind of need that. And in engineering, but like you know, a psychiatrist, I went into computers. So for me, some of math came in handy, but not all the math, because I took calculus also and trig and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I don't use majority of it, but now it is funny though, because now I'm starting to work more with fractal, and it's really coming out to be more that I'm actually starting to use some of that. So in that sense it is, but once again, it wasn't what I got into at the beginning.
Right. I mean, if you use it, then you'll learn it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more playful. It's like, oh, I'm gonna become whatever. If you're gonna become an engineer, you're like, okay, I gotta learn calculus, I gotta do this, like I gotta learn this. But we don't start with that. We just go like, I gotta learn everything, and you know, I need to learn this because it's really important and it's really serious, and just yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and if you really look at the educational system is industrialized, because now it's all cookie cuttered. They're trying to cookie cutter education, and life doesn't really work that way. Life works, you know, as you're giving things in front of you, it's like that's what you're dealing with. I mean, there's a certain path for careers and that kind of stuff, but still, it's if we were to actually look at a career and go, it's like, you know what, I want to try that career, and then get educated for that career, and then as we get older, if we wanted to change careers, it's like, okay, well, now I want to learn that career and get educated in that career. Why? It's like putting everything in a box. Industrial education, to me, is like putting everything in a box.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to cookie cutter it to play with it, like you would want to cookie cutter it to the things that almost everyone's going to use in their future.
Yeah.
So probably psychology, like how to be, be in relationships, how to eat healthy, how to cook, how to, maybe fix a car. Like, I don't know, like the things that everyone's going to use in their future, right? You'd think that would be the focus, but it's literally the things no one gets taught.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I barely learned about finances, but I learned so much about math. And then I'm like, well, I got to learn about finances now. Like, it's not things that you need. So it doesn't, if you're going to go that route, it doesn't make any sense. But you get to the end of college, and then, there's that BS path that isn't really helping anyone, unless you want to be a doctor or something.
Yeah, and what is interesting also about men, because this is the Awaken Men Network, so
right.
The thing about men also, it's like we get not pigeonholed into certain things. It's like, I'm good with computers. So it's like, oh, so put them on computers. It's like never asking me if that is the what I wanted to do. Now, granted, it's like I do like computers and everything, but I'm just using that as an example. It's like it's a stereotype of, oh, they're going to be good mechanics or they're good with their hands. It's like, no, there's some men that I know that are great artists and they don't know anything about mechanics or even computers. And the only reason they discovered it because they had to rebel against their parents because their parents wanted to put them into this or that. That was the stereotypical man role.
Right. Yeah. No, it's so interesting, and to like play with that because I like playing with everything.
Of course.
Like, yeah, and the thing about play is sometimes people think it's just laughing. So I get this a lot. People are like, I want to play and be joyful, and I'm almost go. But playing to me is sometimes like being really intelligent and like looking at things from all perspectives. Like I can play with focus.
Yep.
Like it doesn't always have to be this laughing thing. And that's the mistake I think a lot of people make with play. And I've delved deep into it because it's like my excitement.
Yeah.
And I was like, but a kid will practice basketball for hours. And it's not really laughing, but that's play. Like they're just so into their craft, right? And to me, play is my craft. So I go into it. But kind of spin around like that idea of like I'm my kid is a doctor, right? And so if a kid is in this, then I look really good because my kid's doing this. That like stems from like nobility, from like chivalry times, like where like the king, look, my son's a page or my son's a. It's like it. If people don't see it, like it's just constant like. Look at my children, they're gonna bring on my legacy, and it's an old consciousness of this thing where our wealth and what we have and what we do like proves our self-worth in some bizarre way, and like no one's done enough inner work until this moment in time to actually see it's all BS. Like we've been doing the same pattern for so many generations. And now the consciousness is raised enough and we have enough abundance where we can meditate a lot of the day. And people are like, oh no, like, I'm not going to do what my mom did just because my mom did it or my dad. I'm going to change it, which has never happened, right? That wasn't happening in the 1940s. No one was meditating and going, oh, I need to like not follow my dad's footsteps. Like they were like, no, I'm just going to do this.
Well, and you hear it a lot right now with millennials, the poor guys. It's like they're just wanting to be more independent and they're getting pretty bashed on right now, and millennials are more of the way I see them, they're becoming more independent. They're tired of the system or the system hasn't worked for them, and it's not that they're rebelling, is that they're adapting to a new way of being, and people aren't used to somebody having their own standing up for what they believe in. It's like everybody's used to has been conditioned into follow the system. That's the system, and that's the way it should be. So I do feel that poor millennial guys, they are taking some of the brunt force of this ever-going change that's happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm on the edge. So I was 1987. So I guess
You're pretty close. Yeah, I guess you are, aren't you? Because it's
I'm like on the older spectrum of it, supposedly. Which is interesting because I didn't grow up with I grew up with some internet, but like I grew up with technology. So I'm 32. Yeah, I mean, to me, the rebel generation. Like we don't care about these things. Like it's really, I mean, who I'm around, I guess, is part of it too. But I guess because they actually like we were loved a little more as kids, and then we like love ourselves. So we're not gonna like go be a slave to something we don't want to do. Like, why would we do that? We don't get it. Like it doesn't make us happier. So what's the point? I mean, I think the generation's going to change everything, and that happens every like 100 years. So I love history and looking at things from like people like things are going to be the same. Like the stock market's always going to exist, and I was like, it only has existed for like 100 years.
I know that's
We're
the
due
funny
for a
part.
new thing. It's not like if you look at history, things always crumble and change. Like that's the ebb and flow of life. So it's gonna
And
happen. But this is just that's a pattern too, right? Well,
yeah,
that generation isn't working hard enough. Like they did it to the last one too.
yeah, and that's that it's interesting you bring up the stock market because a lot of people think the stock market has been around, and it really has not been around. A lot of the systems that we have right now, if you really look at it, it was just in the last century, which is 1900 to 2000.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people really sit down and think about that. In our generation, I mean, even for me, I actually remember the first phone call that I got about the internet. And my friend called me up and he goes, "Oh man, you got to get this thing." And it's like, I go, What are you saying?" He said, "Oh, hook up your modem to the phone line and run this program." And I run it, and all of a sudden, it's like I'm getting on the internet, which back then was more like a text, all text. It wasn't even graphics, and
Right.
and that only happened like in early '90s or late '80s or something like that. And to come this far just in close to 20 years. I mean, that shows you how fast things are moving. And let's step back just another 40 years. The things that we have now is changing. So we're moving so fast, something was bound to crumble. And I think the culture is what's crumbling. And I'm not talking like our society's gonna die or anything like that. I'm just saying, like you said, things are gonna change, and we're becoming more self-aware of things too about ourselves rather than the oh I gotta make sure I have a 401k, or and I gotta make sure I have a decent job or this or whatever. Things, the mentality is changing, and technology is allowing that, which I'm really happy we are able to do a lot of the stuff we're doing now.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's a culture shift of what's important, right?
Yes.
To me a value shift. Like it used to be the value was, running a business or taking care of your family and and that's not wrong. I'm not throwing away that value. But like the value of being nice and living a full life and like really enjoying the moment seems to be the millennials' value.
Yes.
Right? They would rather go on the trip now, but they're not worried about when they're 80. Like they're not sacrificing the now for the future. And that's what people always did, which is really a lack mentality, right? We're moving from lack to abundance. And another way to play with it, like it's like to
Yes.
think like I got to save all my money for the future is lack. Like there's not going to be enough in the future. And I'm not saying not to save money or invest money. I would recommend not investing your money in, companies that are poisoning everyone. Like that would be great. But like, buying Coca-Cola stock, they're like, buy that because it's good for long term. And I'm like, so you really like you're telling people to invest in poison? Like that's great. Like that's a high value, right? So I'll be good in the future, but I'm making money killing people and making them sick, which is then costing me money because I have to pay more taxes. So really, if
Yeah.
we just stopped investing in these crappy companies, we would all save money. But that's a whole other topic. But it's just bizarre. It's just like people don't even think right. Like, and that's the new value, right? Like millennials want to make an impact on the world. Like they want to do what's right. Like they're kind of a rebel generation, like I said,
I
because
agree.
of that. They're not going to put their money in Coca-Cola because they're going to retire. They're going to be like, no, I'd rather like not have money and not support that. Like that's horrible. What's the new thing they always say? Like millennials are killing businesses. Like that's how capitalism works. Like if people don't value your product, they're going to kill your business.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly right. You hit right on it.
yeah, so that's bizarre. I'm for capitalism, but I'm not for businesses falling. Like, isn't that's the cornerstone of capitalism, right? Things fall that aren't serving the people because people aren't going to buy their products. And
Yeah,
if
and
people realize Coke isn't good for you, that the company's going to fall.
Yeah, and
So
capitalism, everybody talks, oh, capitalism is great. It's like, well, capitalism is based on one fundamental thing, lack. It really is. When you sit down and really think about capitalism, you need to acquire more stuff. Never does capitalism in the theories of capitalism, there is never, or have you had enough? It's like there's never a point. It's like, oh, acquire wealth, acquire more stuff. And that's a consumer society. And the
Right.
only way to get that consumer to keep on buying, you have to show them what they don't have and put them in that vicious cycle, which that's where we get into. It's like the men, oh, they're not physically fit, or you got to look this way, or you got to have this haircut, or you got to have this suit or this type of job. It's all lack because why? Because we need to be a consumer.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you got to put people in lack to buy stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
look how many Amazon trucks are out. It's ridiculous. Like how many people are getting stuff. Boggles my mind. But it's just one, we're not running a capitalist society. People are paying 35% of their income to the government. That's pretty socialist. Like at its core, like you get I mean, yes, 100% is communism, but like we're halfway. Like some people are paying 50% in taxes. Like that's 50%. I mean, really, the cornerstone of capitalism is almost no taxes, right? I mean, that's really like what it is. Like pure capitalism is the market runs everything, the government stays out. Like maybe monopolies, but like you don't pay much taxes, right?
Yeah.
So, but then people support public schools and roads and all these socialist things. So we're not really even close to a capitalist society. Like to me, that's kind of makes me laugh when you have government employees all around that I see, like, which is why people that are on way capitalism don't want that. Like they're at least being authentic, but
yeah,
I mean, we're quasi-socialists anyway.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
It's funny because we talk about the dark ages and the castles and the kings and queens, and there was an article that came out on one of the tech sites that I read, and they were talking about how the peasants of Amazon they didn't say it that way, but that's the tone of the article. The peasants of Amazon are asking the king to be better for the environment, or they're going to revolt. Because of Amazon, of all the trucks, they want them to be more climate friendly and that kind of stuff. So now you have the employees rebelling, which, let's see, what happened to the French Revolution? What happened to the Civil War here? I mean, we're
Right.
still in the dark ages. It's just a different face to it.
Right. I mean, that's how this country was built, on a revolt, supposedly, if history is actually true. But like, I'm sure there's more to it. But yeah. I mean, that's natural. I mean, that's the ants would revolt against the bigger bug, if it was going to kill their place. Like, I mean, there creates a balance there. I think there needs to be some hierarchy. Like, you need to be able to move up and you need to be able to move down. Like, that's good, right? For society. But also, yeah, that revolting is bad. I don't want to be part of a revolt. That's not my purpose. But do I think it's going to happen? I mean,
I mean,
I
the
have no doubt
tensions
it's
are
going
definitely
to
high
happen.
enough.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it tends to be a pattern. So if the king or queen becomes too powerful and doesn't give enough, right, then the people revolt against the leader, and that's they reclaim something. Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be fun to watch. It's a fun time to be in. It's hilarious because it's not really different than other times.
Yeah.
But like you can sense the shift is happening. Like if you're tapped in, and you can just see it. I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. If we're aware, we're seeing it, because even if you're not aware, you feel. I talk to people that are not in this field, or they're not, or they're more ingrained into the society culture type thing, where they want more stuff and more stuff. And I kind of believe in the balance, but even they recognize something's going on there. And it's not saying that I'm better than them or that. I'm just saying that there's different levels of awareness for people. And even the people that aren't as in tuned as some others, they're still it's still happening. I mean, energetically, it's going to happen. I mean, it's already happening. It's meant to be a change in our value system and what we value, and it's going to be interesting to see where we're at in another 30 years or even 10 years, probably.
Yeah. I mean, think what technology will be in 10 years and what and you look at the spiritual revolution, like how many people are meditating and like doing this in their work. I mean,
I
yes,
know.
there's a lot of society that isn't, which is perfect, but like there wasn't this much going on when I was a kid. Like it wasn't known. Like you couldn't get into this. Like you couldn't be talking about aliens and all this stuff very openly. And it's becoming like normal. Like people know what energy is. People know what Reiki is. People know what meditation is. Like it doesn't matter where you are. And just that is going to change everything. Like to me, if 2% more people meditate, and now it's probably 50% more meditate than before, and it keeps on growing, like that's just going to change everything. Like
Yeah,
just by itself, it has to.
it has to. I mean, there's no other way. You know, the system creates that momentum anyway. I mean, when we're having, I mean, first off, in my area, there's housing issues. You know, the housing is becoming too expensive for people, so they're having to rent a place. And then now the rents are going up because it's getting so overpopulated. And,
Right.
you know, so there's something's always going to give. And it depends where we're at in the spectrum of what we value. Because as we start getting to points where we can't acquire something, human nature will say, it's like, okay, well, what really is important to me? And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's why the system is having the issues it's having now, because it's forcing us to look at what do we really value.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I look at our generation, like one, don't have one of the kids and stuff as much, but coming from the millennials, talking for them. We also like I live in Denver, so like rents, people are moving here and freaking in buses. So people are living in houses together. Like people are renting houses with 5 different people. Like it's very common. And actually it's what we want because we don't have to take care of the whole house. We have other people to help. Like I know I don't want to have a family until I can live in community. I don't want to raise kids by myself. It sounds absolutely horrible. I want a tribe to help me, right? So like this is the values that are coming up from that generation. And they're not caring about having their own house. Like that's not even like what I hear my friends talking about. Like that's not really what they care. It's not like they'd rather have like a family like environment and have help. So it's like a different way of looking at like what you want, right? Like they want more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Really is what this generation wants. So by having children in a tribe, it gives you like then you can actually go out and the other family can take care of the kids and vice versa, right? They want
Yeah,
more freedom. I think that is the core of it. I didn't know that, so I said it.
and it is because the thing is, the children, especially with children, they're innocent and they're gonna grow the way their environment is. If they're by themselves in an environment like me, it's like my mom. I mean, uh, bless her heart, she actually worked from, I'm not kidding you, from 6 a.m. to 11 at night, sometimes even midnight. She had 2
Right.
jobs, and it was kind of weird because I had my brother and my sister, but then they started working. So it was literally me because my dad left when I was 12. My mom and dad got divorced at that time. So it was really me. And at that time, the computer became my friend. And then I had my neighbor. I hung out with him for a while. But it would have been nice to have more community there. Because that I remember growing up in those times, and it was kind of a weird childhood because then from there, while it did benefit me in the way that I learned how to value myself, There are some situations I was really struggling with it. But then I had some other issues with all of that. But anyway, that with all of that combined, it would have been nice to have more people around for me. So community, I do
Right.
agree. Community, growing up in a community would have been a lot more fun.
Right. Yeah, or just creating that in, neighborhoods. I'm not saying we all have to live in a commune in the middle of nowhere and run a farm and, worship some cults. Like, that's not what I mean by community. I mean, like, even
Run
within
around
a
naked and
neighborhood.
stuff, right?
Well, I like doing that. But, like, being naked is way better than having clothes on. But, like,
I
yeah, just.
I
but,
totally agree.
yeah, but I'm on that side. But even in communities, just having that set up, like, and I think that's the balance we need. We've been so trying to do everything ourselves. And I hear this from a lot of people, and I'm feeling it in me. I've been wanting to run my own company and do everything myself. And I'm like, I need help. Like, I need
Yep.
like more people. Like, these families have been running on their own with no help. And yes, there's help from government and different things, but and I'm very anarchistic, like way on that side. So I think we just need to take care of each other. I don't think the government's going to take care of us. Like, that's what I believe. So, but I believe we need that community feel, right? So
Yeah.
almost people will go, they're taken care of by someone else, so I don't have to do it. I don't have to build up my neighborhood. I don't have to care about my neighbor. I don't have to care about this person next door. Even though relationships from, deep relationships are what make us the happiest from a psychology perspective. So we're missing what really makes us happy, like meaning, relationships, all those, flow. Like that's what makes you happy. There's no evidence that making a certain amount of money helps, but other than that, it doesn't. So, yeah.
Well, a certain amount of money to survive.
Right.
Maslow's hierarchy. Once you got your fundamentals, everything else is free game.
Yep. And it's like $50,000 to $70,000 per household. Like, they're not saying it's super, super high amounts you need. I mean, people adjust to what they make, and they make happiness based on what they make. It's interesting. You think, and I'm not saying not to make a bunch of money. It's just not going to increase your happiness. Like, and people literally like are ingrained with that belief. Like, if I made more money, my life would be better.
Yeah.
And it's not true. There's miserable people with so much money.
Yeah, becomes a plateau once you have the certain amount of money. Once you have your fundamentals, anything past that is pretty much just kind of, I hate to say it this way, but it's gravy. It's like,
Right.
oh, that's extra income. I can do more stuff with it. And the irony is, like when I was gaining a lot of money, also that was one of the things that I noticed. It's like, the more money I make, the more I spend, and it becomes a cycle. And it's kind of just interesting to see that.
Yeah. I mean, they call it the hedonic treadmill. I mean, it's been studied where you get used to something, and then you get more, and then you get more, and you get more, and it never stops. I mean, it's literally like almost a disease, like, in a sense, not a disease like you get sick, but like a mental like addiction to more, 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 more. I don't think it's bad. I think that's naturally what we want to do. I don't think like you can resist it, but you want to know it exists, right? So you can be aware and then go, well, really making $1,000 extra a month would be great, but I bet you just go out to eat more. I know what I do when I make more money. It tends to go away.
What was that called? The Hedonics?
Hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill.
Hedonic treadmill. Yeah.
I'm going to look that up. I've never heard about that.
Yeah, it's a lot of positive psychology stuff is what I'm talking about, which is for a while was my highest excitement. It's very close to spirituality in its core. It's all about gratefulness and being positive, and like basically they said we don't have to go into our problems anymore. Like, there's another way to heal, but from a more of an evidence-based perspective of it, not like but really they're just proving what spiritual people have been saying the whole time. So it's kind of funny.
And we're adding play to that ourselves. It's like we got to put play in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. I mean, it's about flow, and it's about forgetting about time and all these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is all played to me. I mean, I love talking about this stuff. Like, it's so, yeah.
Yeah, because for me, I like it because uh, first off, I love kind of what's the word you use? Unpacking everything. I love unpacking things like this because it makes sense. Once you unpack the things, you can you can take it in little bites at a time rather than trying to figure everything out at once. And I feel that's what play is. It allows us to move through it in and out. And like you said, it doesn't mean that we're always laughing or doing this.
Right.
It means that we're having fun in what we're doing. And
Right.
having fun is how you get that excitement, that motivation to do things. I mean, doing this podcast with you is actually what got me to start doing podcasts now. So it's like, oh, this is cool. And now I can just turn on the mic and do whatever I want. It's like, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, and that's the playing thing. You don't know where things are going to lead, right? Like, you might be learning this, and to me, I'm a big fan of following your highest excitement or bliss or whatever word you want to use, or the thing that interests you. Even from a school standpoint, I would say that I like that type of schooling, which they do. I forget what it's called, Waldorf schooling, where you let the kid follow their excitement and you teach everything through that. So you
Yeah.
can, like, a kid loves video games, you could just like have them play I learned more from history playing an historical video game than I did from actual history because I was interacting with it. So it was like, oh, I can learn this, and this is how it worked, and this is, so, but it's because I actually was into it. If I'm sitting there and I'm bored, I'm just checked out. So I'm not really going to learn it.
Oh,
So,
it's,
yeah.
it's funny you bring video games up because I don't know if everybody out there knows about this, but about the Notre Dame burning in the cathedral in France. In
Yeah.
One of the video games, Assassin's Creed Unity, I think is the one. They're actually trying to talk to those people because one of the guys that designed one of the buildings was the Notre Dame building, and he actually went in there and put everything to scale within the video game. So you want to talk about learning history? Now they're going to use that for learning architecture of what all burned down in there. I
Right.
mean,
How crazy is that? Like, and that's what play does. It's accidental. Like, he's accidentally helping something through something he did, right? Because he was just probably just wanted to make that perfect because he wasn't laughing and giggling, but that was his excitement.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. I mean that is what you were saying about video games. It's like we do learn. I mean, the fact that this guy wanted to do a game that was accurate to whatever scale or whatever, just to make the game more interesting. I mean, that alone should show that play does have its benefit.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what our universe is. It's just like a playground of consciousness. So that's why it doesn't feel good when you don't play and you're too serious, because it's literally not what this is. So you're disconnected from the actual truth of what's happening. Like, and that to me is when you don't feel good. You're disconnected from truth. And I want to, as a masculine, defend truth. And to me, defending play is defending truth. Like, it's being eroded, and it's, with kids, and I watch kids can't play, and I know schools now don't have homework for elementary school kids, and I think that's like a huge step. Like, things are happening.
Yes.
But we're stunting our growth as a species by not allowing ourselves to play, especially children, but even adults.
Yeah.
Like, how do you learn anything without playing with it? I don't know how that works. So, and there's no innovation without play.
Correct.
There's no new ideas, right? There's no Elon Musk. There's nothing like that. So,
well, you get rid of play, you get rid of experimentation.
Right.
I mean, that's exactly what you're saying. It's like, and I totally agree 100%.
Yeah, because most of the great things get discovered by accident because people are playing. Like, I mean, it's not people invent things on accident just because they like tinkering with things and they make this random invention, right? So you're literally killing like the child's growth and creativity, which is the worst thing you can do. And then they just become robots that are, not really helping anyone. They're going to their job and going home, but they're not creating anything new for the earth.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's come to our time to stop playing now. Well, let me rephrase that. To stop playing on this podcast. Now we're going to go out and play in the non-audio area and just go out there in our reality here, or whatever you want to call it. So, once again, Daniel, always a pleasure here. And let's see, how about our challenges? I'll let you go first here. And what do you want your challenge for our audience out there to be?
Yeah, just to follow your excitement. So I've been doing it all of April, in every moment, following my excitement. And it feels weird for a while because you don't think it's going to work. And you're like, I'm being lazy, or I'm just doing what I like to do. And it's really bizarre, but it feels really good, to the point where I didn't do anything for 2 weeks. Like, I was just like sitting in nature and like hiking, and now I'm like doing a lot of things. And yeah, just following that in every moment and just see what happens, or do it at least within the possibilities. If you have a job, you got to go to the job, but what excites you to do at that job, right? Does it excite you to do that emails, or does it excite you right now to talk to a coworker? Or does it excite you right now to go to the bathroom? Or does it excite you right now to whatever? And do it in that order, and I bet you'll be more productive. So that's my challenge.
Well, I actually am not going to add any challenges. I love that challenge. And
Okay.
I got to admit, yesterday, that's what I did. I finished my my work for my business. Then it was time for me to really get into my following my joy in every aspect, which my business is. I'm still moving through that. I'm getting to my joy there. But I started to work on the stuff that I'm talking about, all the fractal stuff, and starting to play with all of that. And man, it was awesome. I lost time and space during that time, and it's awesome. And I enjoy that you're pushing us towards that way, Dan. And I'm definitely getting on board with that. And I've been doing it for a while, and it really is true, people out there. So just keep on playing. And just keep on playing.
And your excitement might be to like take a bath or read a book or learn about, I don't know, a spaceship. I want to tell this story real quick. I one time learned how a locomotive train worked, and it was literally just my excitement. It had nothing to do with anything, but it actually showed me something about life. It was like I got this deep like understanding of my situation through studying old locomotive coal trains. Because I was like, kind of like, oh, I got to work so much. And then I literally read about it, and this guy was like, I got to work 12-hour days shoveling coal. And I'm like, well, I have nothing to complain about. And then I felt better for like a week. So like, it's literally God or the universe is pushing you towards your excitement. And it might just be for that one thing, to the point where I'm going to restaurants right now. I went to a coffee shop and a restaurant the last 2 days, and a friend showed up at both those places.
Awesome.
So, like, keep on doing it. It gets real magical. It gets real weird in a good way.
I'm so glad you're talking about that and living it. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't talk about it otherwise. I'd be a hypocrite.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you, audience. And I guess we'll see you guys next week. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, anything you want. We're here for you guys. And
all right, sounds good.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.